Words are like windows. They give us a glimpse into a person's mind, their values, and the way they see the world. You can't always read someone's heart through their actions alone. Actions can be rehearsed. Charm can be learned. But the words a person chooses, especially in unguarded moments, tell you everything. They reveal how they process emotion, how they handle pressure, and how much they truly respect you. When a man speaks, even casually, he's telling you a story about what he believes is acceptable, what he prioritizes, and what kind of future he's capable of building with you. You just have to listen, not to the volume of what he says, but to the values hidden inside it. So many people get swept up by how someone makes them feel in the moment, the chemistry, the fun, the way his eyes light up when he talks to you. But the real truth isn't in how he touches you or even how much time he gives you. It's in how he speaks about others, how he talks about his ex, how he describes women, how he reacts when you have a boundary or an opinion that doesn't match his. Because that's when his mask slips, when his true beliefs leak through his words. When someone is truly kind, their words reflect emotional awareness. They're careful not because they're afraid of losing you, but because they understand that words leave scars. But when a man has no emotional accountability, you'll hear it in the way he talks about your feelings. He'll call you too emotional or too sensitive. He'll dismiss your hurt as drama. And here's the truth. When a man dismisses your emotions, he's not showing strength. He's revealing weakness. He's telling you he lacks the maturity to handle emotional depth. It's easy to be nice when everything is light and easy. But the real test of a man's character is what he says when you challenge him, when you express a need, when you're vulnerable. Does he use words to calm the storm or to fuel it? Does he speak to be right or to understand? You'll always know who you're dealing with by how he communicates in discomfort. And this is where most people get trapped. They hear something that doesn't sit right, but they excuse it because they're already attached. They tell themselves, he didn't mean it that way, or I was just angry. But words spoken in anger still carry truth. They come from somewhere real. They expose the cracks in how he sees you. Every time he belittles you, mocks your emotions, or makes your pain feel like a burden, he's telling you, my ego matters more than your peace. When you learn to truly listen, not just to what's said, but to what it means, you begin to protect yourself. You stop falling for mixed signals and start honoring your intuition. Because your gut always hears it before your heart wants to believe it. A man who values you will use words that build safety. He'll communicate with empathy. He won't make you decode his affection or question your worth through silence or sarcasm. You'll never have to guess where you stand because his words will match his actions. But when his words chip away at your confidence, when they make you feel like you're walking on eggshells, when you start doubting your voice just to keep his attention, that's not love. That's manipulation dressed as affection. So listen closely, not because you're paranoid, but because you're wise. His words will always show you what his heart is too proud to admit. And once you see it, believe it. Because people can only fake consistency for so long, but their words will always betray their truth. Emotional safety is the foundation of every healthy connection. Without it, even the most passionate relationship will slowly collapse. You can't build love where you feel like you're being judged, silenced, or constantly second-guessed. You can't open up when every conversation feels like walking through a minefield, wondering what version of him you're going to get today. Emotional safety isn't about living in constant harmony. It's about knowing that when conflict happens, you're still respected, still seen, and still valued. When a man genuinely cares for you, you feel a sense of calm around him. You're not afraid to express yourself. You can disagree without fearing that he'll punish you with silence or anger. You can share your feelings without worrying that he'll twist them or call you crazy. But when emotional safety is missing, you start editing yourself. You hesitate before speaking. You replay every conversation in your head, wondering if you said too much or sounded too needy. That's not love. That's anxiety disguised as affection. A man who can't create emotional safety often hides it behind charm. He'll tell you what you want to hear, make you feel special in the moment, and then disappear when things get real. He'll make you feel responsible for his moods or guilt you for asking for basic respect. You'll start to believe that if you could just be a little less emotional, a little quieter, a little more patient, he would stay consistent. But the truth is, safety doesn't come from shrinking yourself. It comes from being with someone who knows how to handle your emotions with care. Pay attention to how you feel after you talk to him. Do you feel grounded or do you feel drained? Do his words give you clarity or do they leave you confused? Emotional safety isn't found in how often he says, "I love you." It's found in whether he makes you feel loved even when you're not perfect. A man who truly respects you doesn't weaponize your vulnerability. He doesn't make jokes about your insecurities. He doesn't turn your feelings into an argument. Instead, he listens. He slows down. He tries to understand before he reacts. That's what emotional maturity looks like. Not perfection, but presence. The absence of emotional safety shows up quietly. It's in the subtle eye rolls when you speak your mind. It's in the dismissive tone when you try to share something important. It's in the long pauses where you wait for reassurance that never comes. Over time, these small moments start to build a wall between you and your own confidence. You start losing trust in your own emotions because they're never validated. And that's the danger. Once you begin doubting your own feelings to maintain peace, you've already started abandoning yourself. A relationship that requires you to silence your truth to keep his comfort isn't a relationship, it's survival. And survival is not love. Love is freedom, the freedom to be messy, honest, human. It's being able to say, "This hurt me," and knowing that your pain will be met with care, not defense. It's being able to show your soft side without fearing it'll be used against you later. So when a man's words make you feel small, when they leave you questioning your worth, don't wait for him to change. Recognize that emotional safety should never be negotiable. The right man won't punish you for having feelings. He'll appreciate that you trust him enough to share them. He'll protect that trust, not test it. And if you're with someone who doesn't, that's your sign. Don't fight to prove your heart is worthy. Just walk away with your peace intact, because the person who truly values you will never make you afraid to be yourself. Control rarely shows up as control in the beginning. It often comes disguised as care, attention, or even love. It sounds like, "I just worry about you," or "I don't like seeing you with those people," or "I only say this because I care." At first, those words can feel comforting, like someone is deeply invested in you. But over time, you start noticing a shift. The concern turns into criticism. The care turns into control. And suddenly, you're not being loved, you're being managed. A man who uses control disguised as care wants to test how much of yourself you're willing to give up for him. He doesn't start by demanding everything. He starts small. A comment about your outfit, a question about your friends, a subtle suggestion about how you should act. Each moment feels insignificant, but together they build a pattern. You find yourself adjusting little by little, not because you want to, but because you don't want to upset him. You start choosing peace over authenticity, silence over honesty. That's when control has done its job. It's made you believe that keeping him calm is your responsibility. What makes this kind of control so dangerous is that it hides behind affection. He'll tell you, "I just don't want you to get hurt," or "I know what's best for you." But care doesn't come with fear. True care empowers, control restricts. One expands your world, the other shrinks it until you forget what freedom felt like. And the more you adapt, the more he takes. He'll make decisions for you, justify them as love, and leave you questioning your own judgment. You can always tell the difference between care and control by how it makes you feel. Care makes you feel safe, supported, and understood. Control makes you feel anxious, small, and uncertain. Care invites conversation, control demands compliance. When a man truly loves you, he encourages your independence. He wants you to have friends, passions, and dreams that exist outside of him. But when he's trying to control you, he'll make you believe that his presence is the only thing you need, that without him, you're incomplete. He'll start using your emotions against you. If you confront him, he'll say, "You're overreacting." If you pull away, he'll call you cold. If you speak up, he'll accuse you of being ungrateful. These are not random reactions. They're calculated ways to keep you doubting yourself, so you'll stop challenging him. It's not about protecting the relationship, it's about protecting his power. Love never requires you to lose yourself. You shouldn't have to choose between being in love and being free. A man who truly values you will never want to silence your voice or limit your choices. He'll stand beside you, not above you. His care won't control. It will nurture. It will make you more of who you are, not less. So when someone's care starts feeling like a cage, listen to that feeling. Don't justify it. Don't convince yourself that this is what love looks like. Because the moment you start giving up your authenticity for the sake of peace, you're no longer being loved. You're being controlled. And the moment you see that, you have a choice. You can keep shrinking, or you can step back into your power. Walk away from the kind of love that feels like permission and wait for the one that feels like freedom. There's a moment in every connection where someone reveals who they really are. And often it happens in just a few words. The 4 words that should make you stop and think are, "You're too much for me." They sound almost gentle, like he's complimenting your intensity, your passion, your strength. But underneath that phrase hides a truth that cuts deeper than it seems. What he's really saying is, "I can't meet you there." It's not that you're too much. It's that he's not enough for the version of you that's fully alive. When a man says those words, he's not admitting emotional honesty. He's revealing emotional limitation. He's telling you that your depth feels like pressure to him, that your standards feel like demands, that your vulnerability feels like too much work. And that's not love speaking, that's fear. Fear of being seen, fear of being held accountable, fear of having to grow. Because when someone truly wants to build something real, they don't run from your intensity, they rise to meet it. Those 4 words often come right after you've shared something real. Maybe you opened up about your feelings, expressed your needs, or stood your ground. Instead of hearing you, he pulls back and says, "You're too much for me." What he's really doing is flipping the script. He's turning his inability to meet your emotional depth into a story about you being the problem. It's a subtle way of saying, "Tone yourself down so I can stay comfortable." And that's where the danger begins. Because when you start believing it, you start dimming your light just to fit his limits. You'll find yourself softening your opinions, laughing a little quieter, hiding your sensitivity, and apologizing for emotions that were never wrong to begin with. You'll start performing for acceptance instead of living in your truth. And the heartbreaking part is, the more you shrink, the less he values you. Because he was never looking for a woman who challenges him. He was looking for someone who validates his comfort zone. But you were not made to make someone comfortable. You were made to be real, to love deeply, to feel fully, to stand boldly in your worth. The right man will never tell you that you're too much. He'll look at your passion and say, "I love that about you." He'll see your honesty and call it strength, not drama. He'll feel your emotions and meet them with empathy, not avoidance. That's what it means to be emotionally compatible, not to avoid intensity, but to embrace it with maturity. When someone says, "You're too much for me," let that be your clarity, not your wound. Let it remind you that you need a partner, not a spectator. someone who wants to grow beside you, not someone who's intimidated by the way you shine. A man who's truly ready for love won't use your emotions as a reason to leave. He'll see them as an invitation to connect more deeply. So don't waste time trying to convince someone to handle your truth. If he says those 4 words, take them as a gift, a clear signal that he's not your person. Because the man who is meant for you will never ask you to be less. He will admire the way you love, the way you speak, the way you feel. He'll see your too much as exactly what he's been searching for. The moment you hear those words, you don't need to argue or explain. Just smile and know it's not a rejection, it's a revelation. It's the universe telling you that your heart deserves a space big enough to hold it. Walk away knowing that you were never too much. You were simply too real for someone who wasn't ready for real love. There's a painful moment that many people experience in love, when someone makes them feel like they have to shrink to be accepted. It begins subtly, almost invisibly. You express your feelings and he calls you dramatic. You show passion and he says you're overreacting. You stand up for yourself and he accuses you of being difficult. Slowly, piece by piece, you start dimming your own light, thinking maybe if you were softer, quieter, less emotional, he would stay. But that's not love. That's self-erasure in the name of someone else's comfort. Never dim your light to make someone else feel taller. The parts of you that someone calls too much are often the very parts that make you magnetic, beautiful, and alive. Your emotions, your honesty, your strength, those are not flaws. They're the signs of a person who has depth. And if someone calls that too much, it's because they can't handle what's real. A man who is emotionally ready for love won't see your intensity as a threat. He'll see it as a gift, a kind of honesty that demands he show up fully too. When someone tells you you're too much, what they really mean is that they can't meet you at the level where love actually lives, in truth, vulnerability, and connection. And that's not your fault. It's not a sign that you should be less expressive or less caring. It's a sign that you've outgrown the emotional limits of that relationship. The wrong person will always make you feel like your strength is a problem. The right one will make you feel like it's safe to be exactly who you are. You deserve a love that doesn't ask you to apologize for your depth. The right person won't see your emotions as a burden. He'll see them as the language of your heart. He won't be intimidated by your standards. He'll be inspired to rise to them. He won't say, "You're too much," because he knows what it means to meet someone with equal energy, equal honesty, and equal intention. Love that lasts is built between 2 people who both want to bring their full selves to the table, not one person who's constantly shrinking so the other can feel secure. The truth is, when you dim your light to make someone stay, they don't stay for who you are. They stay for the version of you that hides. And that's not sustainable. You'll end up resenting yourself, feeling unseen, and questioning your own worth. Because deep down, you'll know that you had to betray your own voice to keep their approval. Real love doesn't cost your authenticity. It thrives in it. If someone tells you you're too much, let them go. Don't chase, don't explain, don't tone yourself down. Just understand that they've revealed their capacity and you've revealed your truth. And that's powerful. Because every time you refuse to shrink, you send a message to the universe, I am ready for a love that can handle my full self. The man who's meant for you will never want you to hide your emotions. He'll be drawn to them. He'll appreciate that you care deeply, that you communicate openly, that you love fiercely. He won't need you to dim anything. He'll match your energy and celebrate your light. So stop apologizing for being intense, emotional, passionate, or outspoken. Those are not weaknesses. They're your fire. And anyone who tells you to tone it down is simply too scared to stand next to that fire. Don't dim it. Don't shrink it. Don't hide it. The right person won't just handle your light. He'll be illuminated by it. Walking away is one of the hardest things to do when your heart still cares. It feels like you're giving up, like you're throwing away all the effort, all the love, all the moments you hoped would turn into something lasting. But the truth is, leaving isn't losing. Sometimes walking away is the bravest, most self-respecting thing you'll ever do, because staying in a place where you're constantly undervalued, unseen, or unloved is what truly breaks you. Not the leaving, but the slow dying of your spirit while you stay. When someone tells you, "You're too much for me," or makes you feel like you have to shrink to be accepted, that's not a challenge to work harder. It's a clear sign that they're not your person. Love isn't meant to feel like begging for space to exist. It's meant to feel like home. And if you're constantly fighting to be heard, constantly adjusting to keep the peace, constantly questioning your worth, that's not love. That's emotional survival. And survival isn't enough. You were made to thrive in connection, not drown in confusion. Leaving doesn't mean you stopped loving them. It means you finally started loving yourself enough to stop settling for half-hearted love. It means you recognized that your peace matters more than their potential. You saw that staying was teaching them it's okay to treat you like an option, and leaving was the only way to remind yourself that you're not one. Sometimes love requires distance to protect your dignity, and that's not weakness, that's wisdom. The right person won't make you question your worth every time you express your feelings. They won't make you walk on eggshells or apologize for needing reassurance. They won't call you too emotional when you're simply being human. The right person will make you feel safe, not small. They'll listen, not dismiss. They'll meet your energy, not drain it. When you leave the wrong person, you're not walking away from love. You're clearing the space for real love to find you. You don't lose when you choose yourself. You gain clarity, confidence, and peace. You learn that being alone is not the same as being lonely. In fact, being alone after a toxic connection can feel like breathing for the first time in months. You start to hear your own thoughts again. You laugh without checking who's watching. You rediscover what it means to feel free, and you realize that love should never cost you your sense of self. So when your heart aches to go back, remind yourself what it felt like to stay. Remember the confusion, the anxiety, the endless second guessing. Remember how you tried to explain your feelings and ended up apologizing instead. Remember how every "I love you" felt like a temporary fix for a wound that never healed. And then remind yourself that you left because you finally decided that peace was more valuable than pain. There's a kind of power that comes from walking away with grace. You're not walking away out of anger. You're walking away because you've learned your worth. You've learned that love isn't about how long someone stays, but how they treat you while they're there. You've learned that closure doesn't come from them admitting their faults. It comes from you accepting the truth and choosing yourself anyway. Leaving isn't losing. It's leading yourself toward the life you deserve. It's the act of saying, "I choose peace over chaos, self-respect over confusion, growth over comfort." Because real love never asks you to sacrifice your sanity to keep it alive. The right love will never make you question if you're enough. It will make you feel secure in who you already are. So when the time comes, walk away. Not because you stopped caring, but because you finally started caring enough about yourself to never settle for less again.